All right, folks. I was on a roll there, and for some reason the video cut off. So I was talking about those 13 layers, and the Earth is considered the lower of those 13 layers. And what is believed with the Mayans is that a divine ruler, as an avatar, sent here upon this earthly realm to play out these lower regions, and then from there bounces back up to heaven. So the lower regions of those 13s is going to be Earth itself, and then in this material realm, duties are fulfilled, and then from there, reascendance into the heavens is what happens. The thing is with this temple in Castillo and Itza is it's very much calculated and connected with cosmology. It's very intelligent in its direction towards cosmology. And what's occurring is you're going to have four main cardinal points in Itza. And just like we saw with the pyramids, you had the four main cardinal points signifying different directions in the universe, the four main directions. But the points were converged with the pyramids. Here we have it's flat roofed, okay? But it has a very mathematical significance, and that is that on three sides you're going to have steps that lead up to the top. And those steps are going to be 91 in number. Then there's going to be the fourth step, which is going to be 92 in number, and there at the ascendance of those steps will be relief imagery of Kukulkan. And Kukulkan is similar, just a different name for like Quetzalcoatl. And I want you to go back in the PowerPoint and look at Teotihuacan outside of Mexico City and refer to what I'm discussing. None of my stuff is working right now. My PowerPoints aren't coming up, nothing. I don't know what is going on. I apologize. Okay, there we go. Figure 18.5, which is Teotihuacan. And here we have the Pyramid of the Moon and the Pyramid of the Sun. All right, so if you're down in Mexico City, go check it out. I've been there a couple times. It's just absolutely amazing. Sacred place. And then figure 18.6 is the Pyramid of the Sun. And here, Quetzalcoatl is presented, right? His divinity is presented here. And then the counterpart to Quetzalcoatl is, again, going to be at the top of those 92 steps at Itza. And that name, again, is Kukulkan. I'm sorry. I had all this laid out in the previous video, and everything was rolling just fine. But something happened. But anyway, so on all four of these cardinal directions, you're going to have three that are going to have 91 steps that lead up to the altar and the top of the pyramid. And then you're going to have one that's 92, which is going to have imagery and relief sculpture of Kukulkan. And there it's 92. So it's that one additional step to get to that level of divinity. All right. And if you add all of those numbers together, 91 times 3 plus 92, you're going to get 365, which is 365 solar days. All right. So this pyramid in Castillo is a marker, a mathematical cosmetological marker of what's going on in the universe and tracking the dates. And that's the sheer level of intelligence that's going into the architectural construction of this temple. And one thing that is going to happen during the solar equinoxes, and this is similar to Quetzalcoatl, is that there's going to be light that shines in a certain area that's going to create the shadow work upon the temple as if a snake is in this serpentine motion in the shadow form across the pyramid, which is, again, similar to the Quetzalcoatl concept of this serpent and that of the feathered serpent. Right? So similar here with Kukulkan is this serpentine-like shadow that is going to come over this pyramid whenever the solar equinoxes hit that temple from the sun, or this pyramid from the sun. All right? So pretty magnificent. And be able to, again, compare that there is still this interest in humans on devoting time to the cosmos, and that it's happening here in Mexico just as it was happening in Egypt and also Mesopotamia with the ziggurats during that time. So, but again, within this chapter, look at figures 18.1, 18.7 with Chichen Itza, and then go and relate that to Teotihuacan outside Mexico City with the Temple of the Sun and the Temple of the Moon, or the Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon. All right, you got Quetzalcoatl here in Mexico City, and then you got Kukulkan here in Castillo. All right, similar but a little different. Same concepts, just a different direction, a different kind of focus on worship and devotion to these individuals. Okay. One thing that I forgot to mention is that it has 9 steps as well. So 91 small steps, and then that 92nd small steps that lead to Kukulkan sculptures. But then the larger step segments are 9. And again, that number 9 is supposed to represent the 9 lower levels of the underworld. Okay? And then again, these figures, these divine earthly beings, are supposed to descend through these 9 levels of earthly existence, or these 9 lower levels of the underworld, and then from there they reascend to heaven afterwards, once their jobs and their duties are done. Okay? Now what I want to do is I want to talk about the membrae. And the figure that I want you to refer to is figure 18.35, the membrae. Okay. And these pots are going to be from around 1000 BCE. So it just gives you just an idea, a glimpse on how important ceramics in particular is in this southwestern part of the United States, and that these folks were here making pots way before some of the levels of civilization were even developed over in the western parts of Mesopotamia, in ancient Mesopotamia. Everything was established and everything was copacetic here, with the membraes just being one, Pueblo and Navajo or some others, and just thousands of groups that were already established in their level, in their civilized existence culturally than what was going on in the Western world. And what's wonderful is that the last ice age did not affect this area as much. It was cold, but it wasn't as affected as these other areas in the Western world. So there's way more time for actual development culturally and civically, meaning like through developments of their own tribal civilizations. So here we have pottery that's incredibly well designed and elegant and sophisticated, with figure 18.35 with this plate. Okay, and we have the cranes that are symbolized to represent a certain individual. And that's what this plate was for. It was the individualization of one member within that group, within that tribe. And that's really significant because during the Mesopotamian time and just prior to that, it was very much about communal, which it still is here. But each individual had a certain symbol or a certain animal that represented who they were. And the crane is what represented this individual. Now, you'll notice on that plate that there's a hole poked into it. That's not from excavation. That's not from archaeological digs. That is actually from the membrae themselves. Okay, and the name again is Mimbres, membrae. Okay, and what they would do when a very significant person in the group would pass away, they would bury that individual, most likely wrapped in some kind of fabric. And this is a commemorative plate that represents that person symbolically through that animal, okay, that crane in particular with this one. Then once buried, not covered up, but then this plate was placed upon the head of the individual. The concavity of the plate was placed on the convexity of the head. Okay. Then a finger was poked through the plate, right? And then it was buried. And that finger was poked through the plates so that the soul that's trapped within that body has an opportunity to ascend through that hole. And from that hole, that soul goes through this portal and ends up in the afterworld. So these pots have spiritual commemoration, or they have material commemoration for what that individual did for the group in his or her life, but it has a spiritual significance to lead them to the next level of existence, okay? To the spiritual level of existence. So there's hundreds and hundreds of these plates that have been found in the Mimbres area, which is present-day New Mexico, over into Arizona, and we're finding that each and every single one has a hole that's poked in it. And the explanation coming from the tribal leaders that are derivative of the original Mimbres are stating that this was a funerary, sacrificial piece of ceramics for the individual to get to the spiritual world from the material world. Okay. So I'm going to leave you with the Mimbres as well as with Castillo and the pyramid to dissect that from chapter 18. And again, looking back at Teotihuacan and the pyramid of the sun and the moon, and being able to create similarities within themselves with the pyramids, and then also how that associates and connects with the rest of the world where we've seen pyramids as well as ziggurats. Okay? I'll leave you at that.